Hey everyone, Dave here from OSGTTV. Hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to the stream. If this is your first time here, we love variety streaming. We do everything from retro gaming, whether it's computers or consoles or the newer mini consoles, all the way up to stranger things like virtual pinball, arcade, and all, even including current gen PC gaming, Xbox gaming, pretty much a huge variety. If we can plug it in and stream it and share it with you, then it's fair game for us. So if you like that kind of variety, make sure to throw us a follow. If you're on Twitch, if you're over on YouTube, make sure to throw us a subscribe and hope to see you around. Tonight we are doing something a little interesting. We've been waiting for this guy for quite a while. We got it shipped to us a little later than everyone else got theirs because for some reason Amazon release was like 3 weeks after everyone else, but we finally got it. We got our hands on it. We have done a whole video series already on analyzing the unit and finding all the bad things about it. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the good things about the Atari GameStation Go. So let's go. All right, welcome back everyone. So yeah, Atari GameStation Go, my arcade released about I would say they're the big brother to the GameStation Go, and even though it's a little smaller in size, is the GameStation Pro. This was an HDMI emulation device that kind of gave you a huge collection of Atari games, arcade games, 2600 different consoles, and the ability to side load some of your own games into some various emulators and stuff like that. They came with a kind of a customized Atari 2600 offshoot joystick that had a built-in spinner into the joystick, and that's probably one of the coolest features of this thing, is this built-in spinner that you have for spinner games. But it was kind of a weird hybrid. It had a fire button up on top like a B button, and then a trigger for C, so you could play more advanced games than just like Atari 2600 games. You could play games that had up to like 3-button support. These things were wireless. You could wire them in and use them as well. The system overall was a good start, but the GameStation Go came out, gave us something portable to work with. Kind of along the same lines of software for the system, even though there's some major differences. We'll cover that in a few minutes. But the Atari GameStation Go is the GameStation Pro portable version with a few new features to it. So we'll talk about that here as we go through. So My Arcade, they're known for a lot of the smaller handhelds that you can find in department stores, like Ms. Pac-Man, miniature arcade games, pole position mini arcade games, real small like keychain kind of games, just a whole bunch of different collections of console games, arcade games, and things like such. This is their first handheld game that's this size. This thing is about as big as the Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. It kind of feels the same. It's got all kinds of new controls on the side, and on the right side we even have a number pad for Atari 5200 and some other consoles that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But 7-inch screen on this thing, and a lot of cool features, a lot more than the $20 or $30 miniature arcade games that you're normally buying from My Arcade. So let's talk about the Atari GameStation Go for a minute. We'll flip screens here, and I'll show you the little trailer that they released for this product. Available October from My Arcade, or if you're ordering off of Amazon, we are looking at November release. So that's when we got ours. We got ours November 3rd, I believe it was. So a little bit later than everyone else, but it was worth the wait. So yeah, Atari GameStation Go. What makes up the Atari GameStation Go? What are the main features? Number one, portability. If you want something that's on the go, portable, but not hard on the eyes, because your screens are so small. There's a lot of handhelds out there nowadays that do emulation and things, and they're small, like Game Boy kind of screens. This thing has a huge 7-inch screen on it, and while it's not super clear like, an OLED screen or something like that, it's pretty decent for what it is. It's got the different controls on the sides. It's got the spinner control for paddle games, and they actually changed it last minute to be a full rotation spinner device, so you could play games like Tempest on it, Indy 500, games that do more than like a 270 degree turn on the thing. It can just keep going round and round and round. Trackball on it for trackball games, which is nice. You don't really see trackballs on too many handhelds or system nowadays, unless you have like a custom arcade machine or build your own, something like that. So it's nice to actually play some trackball games with this thing. The battery life on it is great. It lasts about 4 to 5 hours under normal stress. If you are playing lighter games like the older Atari 2600 games, things like that, things that aren't so hardware intensive, you'll probably get a little even longer battery life out of it. Tons of games. So if you're looking to expand your Atari game library and haven't bought a new Atari system in quite a while, this thing boasts 200 plus games. I think we're up, when I did my count, over 220, I believe. So everything from retro Atari 2600 to different consoles like the 5200, the 7800. You've got some arcade games in there, and then some third-party games that were included. I don't know if Atari owns the license, but I'm guessing they do. So you got some different brands in there now, like Pico and the balls of steel pinball tables, and we got a special Pac-Man group of games, and then we have the newer Atari Recharge. So it's not all retro classic games. You do have some newer games on this system that were released in the last 2, 3, 6 years on different consoles, kind of starting back with when the Atari VCS was released. Atari also decided to start producing a recharged series of games like Breakout, Asteroids, things that enhance your gameplay, make it more challenging, give you a lot of power-ups and things like that. And the games are actually pretty decent overall. So you get some of those games, not all of them, but you get about 5 of those games included with this system. The D-pad is a really good D-pad. It feels good. It doesn't feel cheap or clicky or anything like that. It feels like your Sega Genesis gamepad, or it doesn't even feel like gamepads of today, because if you go to like an Xbox One controller, the gamepad is real clicky, and I don't know how many people like it clicky like that, but I don't. This one is a nice quiet gamepad. It's got some sensitive controls on the inside. I haven't really had directional issues where some controllers, as you're rotating around on the pad, if you're trying to go left and then up, kind of like a 4-way joystick, sometimes it, accidentally goes diagonal on you on like a 8-way joystick. This one is pretty decent. You don't get a lot of controls you're not looking to get out of it. I don't know how to explain that, but the D-pad is pretty decent on this thing. The trackball, it's a real small little marble trackball, and it feels kind of, I don't know, small and cheap, kind of like a game, like a miniature trackball. It doesn't feel solid and weighty like it would in an arcade game, like if you're thinking of like Missile Command or something like that. But it is what it is, and it's very functional, and it does what it's supposed to do. We'll talk about the trackball a little bit more coming up. But those are some of the big features. And for more advanced collectors, they do have an SD card on it, so you can side load some of your extra games that you have on an SD card and get those to work as well. Where should we go next? So, My Arcade, when this thing released, it was on firmware 1.0, and it's been out for 3 or 4 weeks now. They already have firmware 1.1 out. The system did release with a bunch of issues on it, which we kind of cover on a series of our other videos that we've made here on the channel. We actually sat here and methodically played through tons of games looking for problems. We did find a pretty extensive list of problems, and as soon as I posted the videos for those, firmware 1.1 released. It was kind of ironic, like 2 days later, firmware 1.1 came out, and it actually fixed a handful of the most major problems. Things like some Tempest resolution issues, Indy 500 on the Atari 2600 being not controllable with the spinner dial. Some of the vector graphic games needed a little bit of tweaking. So you got a good amount of fixes in there. It's like 5 or 6 of the big hitters. There's still a large number of issues with the hardware, and we're not going to get into that in these videos. You can watch the other videos on that. I actually do have a video kind of with final thoughts, and it's pertaining to the issues of the system. And then we go into talking about adding firmware 1.1 and what issues it corrects. So you can check out that video. We'll link that at the end of this one, so you can go check that out if you want. But we're not here to talk about the issues. We're talking today about how cool this thing is. It's not heavy. It's pretty light. It's got good grips on the side. It's kind of designed like other My Arcade portable devices. So if you've ever seen those, and they have like kind of like round grips on the back of them that you can hold on to with your hands, this thing is no different. It's got all of your 8 buttons to it, you know, your 4 directionals, A, B, X, Y, and then it's got your shoulder buttons and your trigger buttons. So you can get into some pretty decent gaming with all these buttons available to you. The buttons, speaking of the buttons, they do have the glow technology. So depending on what game you're playing, they have a software package that runs on the inside that ties in the buttons, the active buttons, with the game that you're playing. So if your game has like 2 of the buttons active, like A and B, it'll light up A and B, so you know that those are active buttons. If it has 3 buttons active, it'll light up 3 buttons for you. And then you can also go into the details of each game and kind of read not everything that you would see in a manual that was printed for the game, but kind of like a highlight of the game, what your objectives are, and what buttons are active. So you can kind of see with the glow technology, you know, what the different buttons do. If the spinner is active, if the trackball is active, if the D-pad is active, so on and so forth. The unit also has HDMI out, and it's a good feature to have for your TV. If you don't want to sit there and play it on the little portable 7-inch screen, you can actually have an HDMI cable into this thing and use the gamepad as the controller. The HDMI cable does come out of the top of the unit here, so you kind of want to have, you know, the cable's going to kind of hang in front of you as you're using this as a controller, which isn't ideal, but it works, you know. And if you get a good HDMI cable, it actually does snap in pretty tight. I've seen other people doing reviews and they talk about the cable loosening up on them, and the cable that I'm using actually snaps in, and it snaps in really snug. So, you know, just slight movements like this while I'm playing the game doesn't really loosen up the cable that much. As far as the HDMI out, I'm just going to talk about the balls of steel, the pinball tables real quick, and the Atari Recharged. At this point, and I don't know if there's a firmware fix that can fix this, but it appears that the hardware plays all those games awesome on the 7-inch screen. But if you do output them to HDMI, it's a little tough for this hardware to keep up, and you get a huge loss in frame rate. Pinball is really hard to play on HDMI out. And then games like Missile Command Recharged that use the trackball, your cursor just jumps all over the screen, and it seems more like not a tweak they can just make, but it almost seems like they're losing frames, like these games are too powerful for the HDMI out, and maybe they can fix that. Maybe My Arcade can pull something off that smooths that out a little more, but the pinball is really unplayable on HDMI out, as well as the Recharged series. Most of the retro games that you have on here, the Atari 2600, 5200, if you're side loading games and things like that, those seem to work pretty good with the HDMI out. But just a little note about the balls of steel and the Recharged games. They work great on the unit, on the screen, fun to play, good frame rate. But when you output them with HDMI, I do have to mention that it's a little undesirable. You probably won't want to play them that way. As far as controls, if you're looking to do like 2-player on these things, and you have the GameStation Pro, you can actually use these controllers and use the USB-C connector on the back of your Go system, and plug in an extra controller into slot 1 or slot 2 and have extra controllers. So if you're playing 2-player games like combat or something like that, you can go head to head in combat. You can even do one person uses the gamepad, I believe, and then the other person uses the joystick, or you can use 2 joysticks and then do your 2-player games. My Arcade is releasing a joystick compatible add-on and also a gamepad compatible add-on as alternative options to play. They are going to include the spinner, the D-pad, the trackball, the number pad, and pretty much all the buttons, your A, B, X, Y, shoulder buttons, and triggers. I think it's kind of overkill to include all that because a lot of the retro games on here don't utilize all those buttons. A lot of those buttons don't come into play unless you're like side loading things. And even then, you don't have a lot of customizations on what buttons you're using. So whether you really need all those controls on the add-on peripherals that are coming out, we'll have to wait and see how that plays into it. What else we got? We got Wi-Fi added to this thing. The GameStation Pro, this one, did not have Wi-Fi on it. If you wanted to do a firmware update, there was an SD card slot on the side of it that you could put an SD card in, but you had to download the software, prep your SD card, and get that loaded up. This unit, you can connect with your Wi-Fi to your Wi-Fi router and download firmware updates lickety split. System comes up, tells you that their firmware updates are available. You can just click the button to go ahead and download it and wait a few minutes. I kind of wish Wi-Fi had some other uses to it, so just know going into this that the Wi-Fi is simply for firmware updates and nothing like online gameplay at this point or anything like that. Will there be a feature for that coming up? Who knows? But right now, the Wi-Fi is only for firmware updates. Like I said, there is one firmware update out already since release. Hopefully my arcade stays on it and keeps releasing firmware updates. It would be nice to get one, every month, every quarter, or something like that, to keep fixing some of the little problems. Maybe they can add some more games to the system. Not really sure. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Price point. We probably could have talked about this one right off the bat. The Atari GameStation Go is going for $179 on Amazon and I think other US retailers. So keep that in mind. The unit does a lot of things. It's going to be kind of up to you to determine if it's worth $179. It depends what you want out of this device, what kind of collector you are of other devices, and just to get your bang out of your buck for this thing. For example, if you are not a collector of every Atari device that comes out, you probably don't have a huge Atari library. So if you haven't bought in one of these newer Atari systems in the last 5-8 years, having this system with the 200 plus games is probably a pretty good deal for $179, because not only do you get the handheld, the portability, all the different controls, you get 220 plus games on it. So even if you figure those are like $1 a piece, that's $220 right there for all the different software titles and licenses you are getting on this thing. So you can't really go wrong there. But now if you are a collector and you've been getting all kinds of Atari devices like this, or the Atari 400 Mini, or you started buying like the Atari 2600 plus remakes or the 7800, or do other kinds of emulation, every device out there can emulate nowadays, so it's easy to have Atari games available like all over the place. So if you're a big collector like that and you have a lot of different ways to play Atari already, then you got to kind of weigh out what's unique about this thing. The portability is nice. You don't have to have it wired into a TV or a power outlet all the time to play it. So you can take it on the go with you if you're doing a quick vacation or a weekend getaway and you just need something with you to waste some time while your wife is getting ready in the shower in the morning or something like that, and you got 30 minutes to kill. Something like this is perfect for being on the go. Thus the name GameStation Go, right? So you got to kind of weigh out the features of it and what's most important to you. Is it software licenses? Is it portability? Is it, single player, multiplayer? Is it something you want to stream and plug into your system with the HDMI cable? Is it something you are just collecting and it's going to sit on your shelf and look pretty and look awesome with all of your other devices? All those different features you got to look at when you're trying to figure out if the $179 price tag is worth it to you. That being said, who is this product for? I think we kind of defined that in the last couple minutes. I think it's key for collectors, players looking to play their games portable, or those who haven't purchased Atari consoles or games in a long time and you're looking to expand your library. I think those are the key areas. The controls that are on here are unique and they're really nice for gaming. Like, how often can you use original controls on games like either the paddle controller or the trackball? So it's nice to have those ways to play those games on here. But I don't think those are the key features. They look like they're the key features of this thing, but when you actually use them, you're kind of like, yeah, those are great, but could they be better? I find the paddle itself is really good. Minus on arcade games. On arcade games, it moves a little sluggish, but on all Atari, like 2600 games and everything, it works great. The D-pad works awesome. The trackball, in my mind, and I've heard this comment from other people, it's very sensitive, and I would like to see either the ability to slow down the trackball sensitivity by like 20-30%. Whether we can do it or it's just like in a firmware update, but it's way sensitive. You hardly have to move the trackball with your thumb for your cursor, like on Centipede or Missile Command, to go shooting all over the screen without a lot of effort. And I hope that comes out in a firmware update in the future, either the ability to slow that down or maybe they just slow it down through the whole system. And but I think giving us the option would be the best. Anyway, so that's who I think the product is for collectors, portable people, and people looking to expand game libraries. Who is it not for? I don't think it's for the expert collectors that want to take this hardware and turn it into the most ultimate emulation device out there. You can do a lot with it, but there's a lot of limits of what you can do with it too. And maybe in the future there'll be some kind of custom firmware that allows you to tweak the controls or load different emulators on it. But at this point, emulation is kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but it's kind of, they don't put a lot of customization in on it, and just hope that you appreciate the fact that the GameStation Go can play some side-loaded games on here. So yeah, that's it. So $179. I'm glad I bought it. my honest feeling, and this was kind of covered in some of the other videos we did, is, I would kind of like to see it more at a $130, $140 price point. I think 179 is a little high, but once again, you got the whole tariffs going on and other things going on in the world that probably ended up pushing the price up a little higher. I think when it was advertised at first, I think they were talking $149. But yeah, I could see like the 130 range. And I hope they just keep improving it with firmware updates, because they're doing a great job so far, and hopefully they just keep at it. So that's all. Let me know what you think in the comments. If the price point is good for you. If you're looking for anything more out of this, or if you think what they've included in it is a bargain. And yeah, we'll keep doing some more reviews as time goes on. We get different firmware updates or games added to it, or maybe some side loading. We'll talk about that a little more in future videos. But yeah, that's all. Have a great day, everyone, and go get that GameStation Go if it looks interesting to you. It would look great as a present under the Christmas tree as well, right? So it is a fun device, and I am enjoying it so far. And let me know what you think. All right, talk to you later.